everyone, Harmony Williams here. As you know, I recently went to the Northern Hearts Conference in Toronto and I had such an incredible time that I want to break it down and give you some of my conference takeaway. Now, obviously, my thoughts are not a substitute for attending the conference yourself. If you're thinking about going, I highly recommend that you do next year because it's just such a lot of fun to connect with people that I have spoken with online and to meet new peers. So this year, the conference masterclass was presented by Sherry Thomas. Now, I hadn't read anything by Sherry Thomas before I left to go to Toronto. I had a bunch of her books on my TBR, but always seemed to choose other things, like life, you know. But I read The Magnolia Sword Going Down, and I've talked that to death in my last two videos, so I will leave it at, it is an incredible book. Definitely, I am a fan of Sherry Thomas now, and I think I would have been even if I hadn't read anything of hers just by listening to her speak. First of all, she's hilarious. I am learning so much about giving presentations just by watching her present. I found that the humor that Sherry Thomas had in her speech really made it stick a lot more, so it's something that I'm going to be trying to incorporate into my little workshops, though we'll see how well that goes. I learned a lot too. For instance, she brought up the fact that a lot of the way that we connect to characters is through their pain, not necessarily through other emotions. Like, of course, you want your characters to be happy, but it's through the pain that we really connect to them and make us want to see them happy in the end. She also brought up that the pain is connected to a deep-seated fear that will drive the narrative. So I'm definitely going to be taking a look at some of the stories that I've completed but not been able to sell and kind of see if, hey, maybe I'm lacking a little bit in this emotional connectivity. After the masterclass, there was a Q&A session with Sherry Thomas, and we got to delve a little bit more into her writing process. And I want to share it with you just because something in there really clicked with me. Something that Sherry Thomas shared with the conference was her writing style, and that is to just write and not be afraid to throw out as many words as she needs in order to make the book good. So I think she said that for The Magnolia Sword in particular, which is the book that I love, she threw out 70,000 words because she would attempt like a beginning or she would attempt an end and it wouldn't fit, so she just threw it out. My latest book that is currently in the editing stages with Entangled, I've gone at this book several times. I love the premise, but I couldn't execute it right to stay in line with my visions. The first attempt I only wrote like 5,000 and canned it, and then the second one I got all the way up to 60,000, and then I threw everything out, and then I wrote it again from scratch, and there's still at least a good 10,000 at the end of that book that I still need to fix for the ending, but I know that I'm always weak in my endings. So the next thing that I really took away from the conference was the fact that I should be emailing my newsletter subscribers a lot more. I've been thinking a lot about where I want to spend my wrist resources, because if I'm writing, I don't also have the ability to keep up to date with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. The whole reason that I started this YouTube channel or got more active on this YouTube channel was because I'm able to just talk about what I want to say rather than having to use my wrists to type it all out. But one of the things I do miss is the connection that I had to my email subscribers. I love it when people reply to my newsletters and tell me what's going on in their lives or respond to something that I said in the newsletter. I love that. It's the entire reason that, I'm going to say over a year ago, I restructured my newsletter so that the very first section could be this little blurb about what's been going on in my life and stuff that's not strictly professional. And one of the workshops that I went to attend at the conference was about newsletters. It was presented by the wonderful Holly Mortimer, and it really made me think a lot. She's got some really great advice, and she backs up everything that she says with experience, which is great, because I know that as an author, and not a particularly marketing savvy one, my knee-jerk reaction is I don't want to spam people. But she brought up the completely valid point that I can just email people like I'm emailing a friend and give, like, for instance, a book recommendation, which is the entire point of this YouTube channel. I am actually really excited to start emailing a little bit more, not necessarily long emails, definitely not like super spammy buy my book emails, but just like emails telling people a little bit more about myself, maybe connecting to more people on a more personal level. I'm really excited about that. Let's get back to the conference. So another takeaway that I got from the conference, there were also some panels. There was 2 panels, one on rom-coms and women's fiction, and one on the trends in young adult. And I found it really weird and interesting that nobody really knows where the next trend in young adult is going to be. One is, and usually publishers and editors know about 2 years in advance. I don't know how. They must be psychic. But right now they don't know what the next trend is going to be, and I find that super weird and interesting. The rom-com panel was the one that I like much better because one of my now favorite authors, Farah Heron, was on the panel along with Molly O'Keefe and Emily Ohenjanian. I wish there was a pronunciation guide in my head. The 3 of them were talking about the line between women's fiction and rom-coms. The label of women's fiction is not really one that I agree with to begin with, but we'll just set that aside. So one of the really insightful things that Farah Heron ended up saying about rom-coms, and this is helping in my initial kernel of an idea that I have for a rom-com, is the humor is integral to the plot, and if you try to take out the humor, you wouldn't have a book. I love rom-coms right now. The entire world right now is going to escapist fiction, and I am totally on board with that. For some reason, domestic thrillers are also very popular, according to Emily. I do believe that like rom-coms are around and will probably be sticking around for a while because they're light and they're happy and they're basically everything I want to read. Even though my creative well was dry when I went this year, I managed to be sitting in that rom-com panel and think, wow, I would really like to write a rom-com with a heroine who is disabled like me. And I'm gonna. I don't know if I'll publish it, but I'm gonna. It's gonna be my happy book. Originally, How to Ruin Your Reputation in 10 Days was my happy book. And from like, oh boy, like 2009 was when I first wrote it. But I think I only revisited it in 2014 after my husband died. So like from 2014 through till 2015, when it was published, this was the book that I turned to whenever I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed or needing an escape. I would turn to How to Ruin Your Reputation in 10 Days and I would rewrite Francine in some way or reread it or something to that effect. And that book is done. That book is published. So I need something new to occupy me in that same way. I feel like that's what I've been missing. So yeah, so I need another happy project, and this is going to be it. And I feel like the past couple years, without being able to use my wrists the way I need to, have really given me a lot of perspective and a lot of fodder to put in this book to make it funny and happy and everything that I need to be reading right now. So that was the conference. Like overall, it was just such a wonderful experience. I am sorry that I didn't take my ankles into account before I went because it was just very unpleasant. I'm definitely looking forward to the conference next year. It's one I'm going to continue to go to because I just love the way that it's set up. And I love the organizers and I love the people who attend. And I just find that it's a very good atmosphere. Until next time, I will say happy writing to you fine folks instead of happy reading. But honestly, read some good books.